In 1921, a man disappeared for 39 days. Not physically, mentally. His name was Walter Russell, successful artist, renowned sculptor, at the peak of his career. And then one day he just went away. His body remained, breathing, alive, but his consciousness, gone. Doctors thought he'd slipped into a coma. Some whispered he'd lost his mind. His family watched helplessly as this brilliant man lay motionless, eyes open but unseeing. 39 days. No response. No recognition. Just silence. But Walter Russell wasn't gone. He was somewhere else entirely. When he finally returned, he did something that still haunts the scientific establishment. He sat down and wrote 40,000 words in one continuous flow. No edits, no hesitation, like he was downloading information from an invisible hard drive. Then he drew hundreds of diagrams, complex geometric structures, spiraling cosmological models, mathematical relationships between light and matter. He called it the Universal One, a complete theory of everything. And according to Russell, he didn't figure it out, he received it, directly from what he called the universal source. Here's where it gets interesting, because what Russell brought back wasn't just philosophical poetry, it was a radically different model of physics, one that contradicted everything science believed in 1921, one that still contradicts most of what you were taught in school. Russell's core claim was simple, but devastating. Matter doesn't exist, not the way you think it does. Everything you see, touch, and think is solid. It's not. According to Russell, the entire universe is made of light, compressed light. Atoms aren't little balls of protons and neutrons. They're whirlpools of light waves, spinning so fast they create the illusion of solidity. Your body, this planet, the stars, all of it is just light vibrating at different frequencies. Think about that for a second. You're not a physical being, you're a pattern of light that's learned to think it's solid. But Russell went further. He said gravity isn't real either, at least not the way Newton described it. There's no invisible force pulling objects together. Instead, Russell described what he called electric pressure. The universe operates like a giant breathing organism. Light compresses inward, creating density and form. Then it expands outward, releasing back into formlessness. In and out. Compression and expansion. The cosmic breath. Gravity, he said, is just the inward compression phase of this electrical rhythm, not attraction, pressure. Now, you'd expect the scientific community to at least investigate this, right? A detailed cosmological model from a sudden 39-day illumination experience. Even if they didn't believe the source, the ideas themselves were testable. Predictive, specific. They laughed at him, dismissed him outright. An artist playing physicist? Ridiculous. The academics of the 1920s wanted nothing to do with Walter Russell's cosmic download. But there was one person who didn't laugh. One man who recognized something profound in Russell's work. Nikola Tesla. Tesla read Russell's manuscript, and he was shaken. Here was someone describing the electromagnetic nature of reality in a way that aligned with Tesla's own lifelong intuitions. Tesla had spent decades trying to prove that the universe was fundamentally electrical, not mechanical. And here was Russell explaining it with perfect clarity after 39 days of cosmic connection. Tesla wrote to Russell, and what he said should chill you. He told Russell to lock the work away, put it in a safe, seal it for 1,000 years. Why? Because humanity wasn't ready. Tesla believed that if this knowledge spread too soon, it would be weaponized, corrupted, used by people who didn't understand the responsibility it carried. So Russell buried it. Not completely, but he stopped pushing it into the mainstream. He published quietly, built models, taught small groups, but the world moved on without him. Here's what they missed. Russell didn't just theorize, he predicted. In his model of the periodic table, he described elements that didn't exist yet, elements that scientists hadn't even imagined. Specifically, he predicted the existence and properties of plutonium and neptunium, 20 years before they were officially discovered in laboratories. Let that sink in. A man with no formal training in nuclear physics, working from a vision received during a 39-day trance, accurately predicted elements that would later be synthesized in particle accelerators. How? According to Russell, it's because he wasn't guessing. He was reading the blueprint, the actual informational structure of the universe. He called it the rhythmic balanced interchange. Everything in existence follows a pattern, a wave. Birth, growth, decay, rebirth, compression into form, expansion into void. The universe doesn't create randomly, it follows a rhythm. And if you can tune into that rhythm, you can see what's coming next. Russell described death differently too. He said there's no such thing. Not really. What we call death is just a shift in polarity, the inward breath becoming the outward breath. Matter releasing back into light. Consciousness doesn't end. It changes phase. Like water becoming steam. Same substance, different form. This wasn't mysticism to him, it was physics. Cold, observable, repeatable physics. He built working models, created visual diagrams that explained planetary motion, atomic structure, and electromagnetic fields using nothing but spiraling waves of light and pressure differentials. And here's the part they really don't want you thinking about. Modern quantum physics is starting to sound a lot like Walter Russell. Wave-particle duality. Russell said everything is waves. The observer effect. Russell said consciousness and matter are the same thing, light observing itself. Quantum entanglement. Russell described the universe as a unified field where separation is an illusion. Dark matter and dark energy. Russell said the empty space between things is actually pressurized electric potential, the source of all form. We're told these are cutting-edge discoveries, Nobel Prize-level insights. But a sculptor described them in 1921 after vanishing into his own mind for 5.5 weeks. So, what actually happened to Walter Russell during those 39 days? Was it a psychotic break, a neurological misfire? Or did he actually access something real, some kind of informational layer beneath consensus reality? Russell called it cosmic consciousness, a state where individual mind dissolves and universal knowing floods in. He wasn't the first to describe it. Mystics, sages, and shamans have talked about this for thousands of years. But Russell came back with blueprints, with formulas, with testable predictions, and that's what makes his case so unsettling. Because if he really did tap into some kind of universal database, it means that knowledge isn't something we build slowly through experimentation. It's something that already exists, fully formed, waiting to be accessed by anyone who can quiet their mind long enough to receive it. You don't discover truth, you remember it. Russell believed this capacity wasn't unique to him. He thought anyone could do it. That genius wasn't about intelligence. It was about receptivity, about getting out of your own way and letting the signal come through. He said the greatest scientific breakthroughs don't happen in labs. They happen in silence, in stillness, in moments of surrender. Einstein famously said his theory of relativity came to him in a dream. Mendeleev saw the periodic table complete in his sleep. Ramanujan, the mathematician, claimed a goddess whispered equations to him. Kekulé discovered the structure of benzene after a vision of a snake eating its own tail. The pattern repeats: breakthrough, vision, download, and then the slow, painful process of translating it into language that the scientific establishment will accept. Most of the time, they don't accept it. They reject it, mock it, bury it, until decades later when new evidence forces them to admit the crazy person was right all along. Walter Russell died in 1963. His work remains obscure, not taught in universities, not cited in textbooks. You can find his books if you look hard enough, but they're categorized as fringe, pseudoscience, New Age nonsense. But his predictions were correct, his models were consistent, and his central claim that the universe is a hologram of light and vibration is becoming harder and harder to deny. We live in a reality that's 99.9999% empty space. The atoms that make up your body are almost entirely void. What feels solid is just electric fields repelling each other. What looks separate is actually one continuous wave function. What seems random is actually following geometric laws we're only beginning to decode. Russell saw this in 1921. Without telescopes, without particle accelerators, without peer review. He saw it because he stopped thinking and started listening. And that's the real secret they don't want you to know. The field of information is always broadcasting. The cosmic source, the universal mind, the zero-point field, whatever you want to call it, it's always there, always transmitting. The question isn't whether it exists. The question is whether you're tuned in. Most of us aren't. We're too loud, too distracted, too convinced that knowledge comes from outside, from books and teachers and institutions. We've forgotten how to access the library that's built into existence itself, but it's still there, waiting. And if a sculptor from Boston could vanish into it for 39 days and return with the blueprint of reality, what could you access if you tried? This isn't a bug in the system, it's the system. The universe is conscious, intelligent, self-organizing, and you're not separate from it. You're a fractal node of the same source that Walter Russell tapped into. The knowledge isn't hidden, you are. And now you know.